welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 8-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please take one moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll be here all MLB DFS season long breaking down these MLB DFS slates to help you guys become better MLB DFS players, help you guys win some money night in and night out. We got a unique slate today, a 1 o'clock lock, so try not to waste too much time. Let's get right into it. Figure out the pitchers and the batters we're going to play. If you want, I do offer some premium content. Link below in the description. You get access to all the tools that I use when building my lineups. A lot of good data sheets and access to ask me questions leading up to lock, as well as my power rankings and my cheat sheet to help you out, give you some quick answers as to my best plays on the slate. Let's start breaking this one down today. So as always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by carry. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on the slate today is going to be Garrett taking on the Houston Astros. Comes in with a 38.7% carry overall, 16.4 swing strike rate, 35.2% carry rate against righties, and then a 42.4% carry rate against lefties. Just absolutely ridiculous numbers as far as the carry rate is concerned. He's an absolute beast as far as fantasies. As far as fantasy aspects, a 38.7% carry rate is absolutely elite. The only problem is he's in Yankee Stadium, the wind's blowing out at about 12 miles an hour, and he's taking on a Houston Astros team, which isn't exactly the greatest matchup in the world. These guys really don't strike out a bunch. They have contact, they have power all up and down the lineup, so while Garrett Cole is an absolute beast and he can strike out anyone, that's the argument you can make. Also, he used to play for them, so I'm sure they know his repertoire very well. Whether that's going to help them or hurt them is a whole different story, but he comes in at 10.5 on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, they got him priced at 12.3, and he is without a doubt the top pitcher on the slate anytime he takes the hill in most aspects. Him and DeGrom are really the top two guys as far as fantasy sports a lot of times, but not exactly the most ideal matchup, and you're going to have to be the one to decide whether you really want to go there. Second on the list, we got Tristan Mckenzie taking on the Kansas City Royals. Comes in with a 33.5% K rate overall, a 13.1 swinging strike rate, 39.7% K rate against righties, and then a 26% K rate against lefties. He's really, really good against right-handed hitters so far in his career. We got a 52 innings pitch sample size, but as far as lefties are concerned, he has struggled. And he's taking on a Kansas City Royals team that's going to feature, quite a few right-handed bats in there. So this might be a good matchup for him. He comes in at 6.9 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they got him priced down to 6.6. So maybe a decent salary save option. 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing in for you. And then, as mentioned, quite a few righties. They got Whit Merrifield, Salvador Perez, Jorge Soler, Hunter Dozier, Michael Taylor. They do have Nicky Lopez, Ryan O'Hearn, Carlos Santana, and Benintendi mixed in there as far as lefties are concerned. But it looks to be pretty good hitting weather, and he's going to have quite a few righties in there. The Royals have not been striking out the most so far in the season, so that's a little bit of a concern. And we have a few guys that we're going to talk about that are taking on teams that have been striking out quite a bit. So Brandon Woodruff is one of those guys. He's taking on a Philadelphia Phillies team that has been striking out a lot. He has a 29.8% carry overall. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's very good. The hard contact's very good. 30.1% carry against righties, and then a 29.6% carry against lefties. And the guy is just really good across the board. Ground ball, fly ball, strikeout rate. And I think this matchup's going to play into his hands, so to speak. He comes in as a 124 favorite. I like him. And I also like his opposing pitcher in Zach Wheeler. Both these guys in this game I think I have a lot of interest in. Woodruff is 10.1 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, he comes in at 9.3. He's the third most expensive pitcher on the slate, and for good reason. I really do like him in the spot, and I like Zach Wheeler a lot as well, taking on this Milwaukee squad. He doesn't have nearly as high of a K rate, so we're going to kind of skip down to him and talk about him real quick. But the ground ball and the fly ball stuff's all really, really good. 22.8% K rate overall, 23% K rate against righties, and then a 22.5% K rate against lefties. And while his K rate isn't quite as good as Brandon Woodruff's, he also is taking on an opponent that strikes out a lot in the Milwaukee Brewers. Both of these teams, I believe, are like bottom 5 in the league in strikeout rate. I'd have to check my sheets on that one, but I know they're both really bad. And, both of these pitchers are going to be great options. I would prefer Brandon Woodruff. He's priced up more expensive, but, you're also getting a big leap in K rate and swing strike rate, 29.8% K rate as opposed to a 22.8% K rate. So really like him. Lance McCullers taking on the New York Yankees. You can go here. The Yankees do strike out quite a bit. He has a good ground ball and fly ball rate at 25.5% carry, 22% carry against righties, and then a 28.9% carry against lefties. That's a little bit of a concern to me because he's taking on a Yankee squad that is mostly right-handed hitting, so he doesn't strike out righties quite as much. Now, with that being said, he does have very good numbers as far as keeping the ball on the ground and all that stuff, but the K rate's just not quite there. And why would I want to play him when we just discussed some guys where the K rate is there? They're around the same price range, and they have a much easier opponent rather than taking on the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. So viable play, but I'm not quite all too high on him. Smiley next. I'm not going to be playing Smiley. If you look across the board, his hard contact, all that stuff's really terrible. He does have a decent K rate, but really terrible outside of that. Probably going to have some interest in playing some bats against him, so we can skip over him to Nathan Eovaldi, who's taking on a Detroit Tigers team who once again strikes out a ton. We have some pitchers and some very good matchups on this slate today, so, I don't really feel the need. Like, this is a slate. I don't really know if I'm going to be playing Garrett Cole. I don't really think I feel the need to go out of my way to play him against the Astros, which is a team that doesn't really strike out a lot when we have guys like Brandon Woodruff that we talked about. We have Nathan Eovaldi taking on Detroit. We have Zach Wheeler taking on Milwaukee. And we also have Michael Panetta taking on Texas, who we'll get to after Eovaldi. But a 23.9% carry overall for Eovaldi. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's all pretty good. 23.9% carry against righties, and then a 23.9% carry against lefties. Very good across the board. The only issue he really has is hard contact, but he's taking on a Detroit lineup that's just been dreadful. So I think we can kind of throw that out the window in this case. He comes in at 8.6 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they're going to price that 8.4. And, you can make a pretty strong argument that he's the best pitcher on the Red Sox staff outside of Chris Sale, who we haven't seen in quite some time. So, yeah, I think Eovaldi's a great option. There are 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing out in Fenway, which might help the Red Sox bats case more than the Tigers case. It's going to help both bats, but the Tigers got to put the bat on the ball. And I think Eovaldi could have a lot of strikeouts where they aren't able to make contact. So I like Eovaldi. And then I think my last option will be Michael Panetta taking on the Texas Rangers, another team that's been terrible, and another guy with a decent strikeout rate. 23.5% carry overall. Ground ball and fly ball stuff isn't the greatest, but he doesn't walk anyone. 25.8% carry against righties, and then a 20.6% carry against lefties. That would be the only concern of mine. The carry against lefties really isn't that high, and Texas does have quite a few lefties, but they've just been striking out so much. He's got to be a viable option, and he comes in as a 195 favorite, so he's pretty likely to get the win as well, which we always want to get that win when we're playing DFS. So Panetta, Eovaldi, both great options, both rounding out my pitching options today. With that being said, let's go ahead and transition over to bats that we want to target. As always, I like to short my sheet by Sierra, skill, interactive ERA, worst to best. Figure out some of these guys that we can really target, and the worst on the slate today is going to be Mike Fiers taking on these Toronto Blue Jays. Terrible in the K rate, has bad ground ball, fly ball rate. The hard contact isn't the greatest. Has a lot of slugging given up to right-handed bats, and then also some slugging given up to lefties. But most notably, he's been really bad against righties, and this Toronto lineup is loaded with really good right-handed hitting. So that could be an issue for him today. Only a 14.4% carry against those righties as well. And I do think that the Toronto stack is going to be definitely a viable one today. They come in with a 4.23 implied run total, 66 degrees in Oakland with 9-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. Pretty good hitting weather, not the greatest hitting ballpark. If you're looking at Oakland here, not the best. You can see the Coliseum, not the best home run glorified park. But Mike Fiers is pretty bad, and this Toronto Blue Jays team does have a lot of right-handed power, and he doesn't do the best against righties. So when you're factoring all this stuff in, guys like Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Teoscar Hernandez, Randall Grichuk, Lourdes Gurriel, even Cavan Biggio from the left-handed side of the plate are going to be great plays all up and down this lineup. So I think the Blue Jay stack's definitely a good one. They're on the road. They're going to get that guaranteed 9th inning at-bat, like them. Next, we got Jordan Lyles taking on the Minnesota Twins. He's also been very bad across the board. And he's also really bad against righties, but he's also very bad against lefties. He's actually worse against lefties than righties. And he's just terrible across the board. I mean, the guy's ground ball, fly ball, hard contact, slugging, both sides of the plate. And Minnesota's a team that's been hitting the ball very well. They're also loaded with talent up and down their lineup. Guys like Max Kepler, Josh Donaldson, Byron Buxton, Nelson Cruz, Jorge Polanco, Mitch Garver, Jake Cave, Miguel Sano. They do not have a weakness in this lineup. Anderson Simmons at the bottom of the order would be the worst hitter, and even him I would have no issues putting in my stacks if I need the salary relief and he fits at the bottom of the order. He would probably be my least favorite play, but would I be surprised to see him have a big game just because he's in this offense and he gets an opportunity to step up the plate with guys on base? Absolutely not. So I like the Minnesota Twins stack today. John Gant taking on the New York Mets. Not quite as bad as the guys we just discussed. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff, all that stuff's pretty good actually. Against right-handed hitting specifically, he's pretty dang solid. And then against lefties, that's when things get a little bit bad. 331 WOBA, 374 slugging, not the greatest. Honestly, he's not terrible though. He just has a really bad walk issue. But if we are going to target him, we're going to be targeting him with left-handed bats. So I do think that the left-handed power for the New York Mets could be an intriguing option to go to today if you want to get a lower ownership stack. Guys like Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, Michael Conforto, Dom Smith are all going to be great plays, and that'd probably be, you know, the four-man that you're looking to there. Spencer Turnbull taking on Boston. Not terrible, but not good. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's respectable. The hard contact rate's really not the greatest. A 375 slugging given up to righties, and then a 403 slugging given up to lefties. He is a little bit worse against those left-handed bats, and overall he's just mediocre and below average. But he's taking on a Red Sox lineup that is very good up and down, so you got to be factoring in these guys as far as options today. Enrique Hernandez, Alex Verdugo, JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Rafael Devers, Christian Vasquez, all up and down this order. Marwin Gonzalez, Hunter Renfroe, they also have some talent at the bottom of the order. And Franchi Cordero if he needs some salary relief. Got to like going to that stack for sure. John Lester taking on the Atlanta Braves has some hard contact issues against righties, and that's going to be an issue for him because this Atlanta Braves lineup is mostly right-handed heavy lineup. 37.9% hard contact rate, a 471 slugging given up to those right-handed hitters with a 38.8% hard contact and a 340 WOBA. So I think that the Atlanta Braves are in a great spot here taking on John Lester. Looking at the weather, it's in Washington. Washington is a pretty good hitter's ballpark. Pull up the chart real quick for you guys to check that out. As you can see in Nationals Park, especially to those right-handed hitters, it plays pretty friendly down the left field line. And then down the right field line isn't bad either. But definitely a good hitter's park and definitely in a good situation here for these Atlanta Braves today. Ronald Acuna, of course, is going to be a tremendous play. Marcell Ozuna, Ozzie Albies is a switch hitter that really excels against left-handed pitching. Austin Riley slugs lefties. Dansby Swanson. William Contreras has really been hitting the ball well. And then you got Christian Paz, who just returned and is supposed to have a bunch of raw talent. And he's got some pretty good wheels on the base paths as well. So definitely like those Braves right-handed bats specifically. Danny Duffy taking on the Cleveland Indians. Same rule applies to him here. Very similar pitchers. Really bad against right-handed hitting. Gives up a lot of hard contact to those right-handed hitters. And he's taking on a Cleveland Indians squad today who does have some right-handed power. Most notably, guys like Jordan Leplo. Really crushes left-handed pitching. He's always a left-handed special as far as playing him. Jose Ramirez, Framil Reyes in the middle of the order have a bunch of power and talent. Harold Ramirez, Ahmad Rosario is a guy that's really good against lefties. Austin Hedges excels against left-handed pitching as well from the catcher position. And then you got Yu Chang at the bottom of the order, who is a good contact hitter, not the most power, not really a guy that I'm looking to for DFS all too much, but if you need the salary relief, you could be using him to round out your stacks. Taiwan Walker, next on the list, is a guy that's really good against right-handed hitting, not so good against left-handed hitting, but he is taking on a St. Louis squad today who does have quite a few righties in their lineup. But the lefties we could target if you're going to St. Louis, guys like Tommy Edman, Dylan Carlson at the top of the order, and then are all righties. So it's actually a pretty decent matchup for Taiwan Walker. St. Louis not a team that strikes out the most, so I don't really think we need to be going there for like pitching, but I think he can do a pretty good job of like limiting them. Drew Smiley taking on the Chicago Cubs, absolutely terrible across the board. The fact that he has a 4.47 SIERA is pretty surprising to me. The guy has a 5.99 ERA. Terrible ground ball, fly ball, hard contact. He gives up a 5.12 slugging to right-handed hitting, a 5.94 slugging to lefties, and he is just terrible. So every single time he takes them out, I'm going to have interest. He's taking on this Washington Nationals team today who has some pretty decent power against left-handed pitching. You know, not exactly the most exciting lineup against lefties, but I mean, we definitely have some good options. Guys like Trey Turner, Josh Harrison, Ryan Zimmerman, Starlin Castro, Yan Gomes, Victor Robles, Jody Mercer. I mean, they're all going to be viable plays. There is some pinch hit risk to be concerned about in this lineup that we'll have to keep an eye on, but still, I mean, Drew Smiley's just terrible. You're going to have interest in all these right-handed bats. Even the left-handed bats aren't an issue against Drew Smiley, but you got to love these lefties that really, I mean, these righties that really match left-handed pitching. Ryan Zimmerman in the middle order has always crushed lefties. Trey Turner's been on fire at the shortstop position. Yan Gomes at the catcher position really excels against lefties. Starlin Castro and Josh Harrison have always been decent against lefties. And Drew Smiley just isn't good. So Washington stack, definitely viable today. And then once we get past them, that's when things start to get a little bit iffy. Like, I'm not really sure I'm trying to target any of these guys down here. We had mentioned Nathan Eovaldi does give up some hard contact, and the wind is blowing out in Boston, so Detroit could be a low-owned stack. That's viable. I'm not exactly getting all too excited to be playing these Detroit bats, but it does give up a lot of hard contact. If you want to go ahead and stack them up, I wouldn't call you crazy. Middle of the order definitely has some power. Guys like Wilson Ramos, Nico Goodrum, Jonathan Scope, Miguel Cabrera, Robbie Grossman, Heimer Candelario at the top of the order. You got Akil Baddoo expected to be in the lineup in the 8th spot. He's been a guy that's really had a lot of power, so he'd probably be my favorite option on this Detroit squad. And yeah, I think it's a viable stack. Not one you're getting the most excited for, but you have to mention it. If you're playing multiple lineups in tournaments, I would definitely be having some exposure to them. And lastly, Tristan Mckenzie against the lefties in the Kansas City Royals. 524 slugging given up, 370 WOBA, really bad on the ground ball and the fly ball stuff. So these left-handed bats for the Kansas City Royals are going to be in a great spot. They don't have a ton of them, but guys like Benintendi, Carlos Santana in the 4th spot, Ryan O'Hearn in the 7th spot has a lot of power. So could definitely be playing those guys today. And with that being said, before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Nelson Cruz taking on Jordan Lyles, who gives up a 467 slugging to right-hand hitting, a 36.8% hard contact rate, a 322 WOBA, really below average numbers. And when you're looking at what he goes to, on average, will throw the fastball about 45% of the time, and that's about a 93 mile an hour fastball. Looking at how Nelson Cruz fares against that pitch, he has a 467 ISO with a 524 WOBA. Absolutely crushes the fastball, especially in that speed range. And then when going to the curveball, he'll go to that about 30% of the time, and Cruz crushes that as well. A 553 ISO with a 515 WOBA. Absolutely ridiculous numbers against Jordan Lyles' repertoire, and we know that Jordan Lyles has been really bad. Definitely like Nelson Cruz tonight. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Nelson Cruz, get him in your lineups. He's going deep today, and that is all for me in this one. If you do enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you're getting really serious about MLB DFS, don't forget to check out my premium content link below in the description. Wish you guys all the best of luck today. The special 1 o'clock lock. Go win yourself some money, and we will see you in the next one.